Let me ask you a little bit about what your preference is around Brexit at this point. What is the preference of business? Because on the one hand, we've got the relative certainty of what Boris Johnson has negotiated. On the other hand, we have the possibility of a second referendum with Jeremy Corbyn. Does business have a preference between the two?
Well, business really does want to be able to move on, and the uncertainty has been so damaging. We've talked about it many times on investment. I think what business is looking for is a good deal that gets us to a world where frictionless trade continues with European neighbours. We've been constant from the beginning on that, a great deal for our services. So that is the main priority. If we have a government coming back in with a deal that looks like that, then we will be able to give it our support. If there is another referendum, that's not for us to say, but we will play those cards when they come.
But I mean, business would be open to the idea, if there was another referendum, of maintaining the existing relationships with Europe, I suppose.
We're really not sort of thinking in that direction at the moment. We can only play what's in front of us. And at the moment, it's a general election with different plans on the table. But we are really hoping for uncertainty to be ended as soon as possible.
What's your assessment of how Brexit is affecting businesses at this point, and the prolonged debate around Brexit and the prolonged political process?
It's very challenging. I mean, it really is. When you've got ordinary businesses out there who've now faced two cliff edges, so they've marched up to the hill and down again at the end of March when there was a cliff edge, and now the fear of no deal that's just passed and gone again. So it is undoubtedly chilling investment, and we do see this in the numbers. So we've had 5 out of the last 6 quarters have shown a decline in business investment. They really want to get on with it. They want to be able to get on to the next stage of trading relationships, but at the moment you've got still a lot of fingers on the pause button on investment.
Isn't there a problem with the deal that Boris Johnson has negotiated, that there could still be cliff edges in there? I mean, certainly the December 2020, Boris Johnson has said he won't extend. I mean, business must be nervous about, if Boris Johnson is Prime Minister, about the potential for no deal once again.
Well, this idea of rolling cliff edges and no deal on the table still is a real concern. I mean, no business is under any illusion that Brexit gets done just because the withdrawal agreement is over. It doesn't. No deal is still a possibility. And I think a very strong message from business on this is don't box yourself in. Don't get to a stage where we are boxed in and end up with that cliff edge yet again. Instead, give enough time to get a good deal. And actually, I do think if that were to happen, that clarity about enough time for a good deal, that could bring investment forward and actually help 2020 to get off on the right footing.
What kind of access does business get to the top table at number 10, if you like, at the moment? Because we have a Prime Minister who rather famously used a rude word to describe business not many years ago. Does that atmosphere pervade still, or is number 10 much more open than that would suggest?
I think our relationships are good. And, the fact that we have all 3 business leaders here today, the fact that the Prime Minister himself is here, I actually do think says a lot. We do want that relationship, though, to be turned into action. Conversations is one thing, action is another thing. We also did enjoy a very good relationship with Boris Johnson when he was Mayor of London, a very pro-enterprise mayor. So I think the conversations are there. What we now see is the policies that really unlock growth, because we're coming out of a challenging time.
What do you expect and want to see on immigration? Because both of the parties seem to be going out of their way to not commit to numbers and instead to give strategies around immigration, but we lack detail.
Yeah, immigration is a really important subject for business, because we want to be able to grow. And I think one of the things we would say to the government, they've given some hints about their immigration policy, but they're talking still quite a lot about brightest and best. And we know we need all skill levels. Think about building 200,000 houses a year. You don't just need the architects and designers, you need the bricklayers, the electricians, the plumbers as well. So we are saying to them, make sure we create enough flexibility to be able to have people coming into our country at all skill levels to help us renew our country.
We heard on Friday about plans from the Labour Party to provide free broadband. We've talked often about the need to roll out better broadband across the country, but the way they want to do it is to part nationalise BT. That came as a surprise, certainly came as a surprise to me, because I've spoken to John McDonnell and he'd set out previously the limit of their ambition in that regard. What's been the latest thinking over the weekend from business on this? The business community was shocked by this announcement.
The business community was shocked by this announcement. It was a bolt from the blue. I mean, frankly, the effect is to immediately chill investment into full fibre broadband development, which was moving ahead. And I think it's a real concern. And I've spoken to firms across the country who are saying, well, am I next? You know, where is the limit to this? The questions are good questions. You know, we do need good broadband in this country, but it must be a public-private partnership. And frankly, this kind of announcement has exactly the opposite effect on investment and will actually slow broadband take-up down.
Had the private sector just been moving too slowly, though? There'd been some, maybe this comes about because politicians were angry that this hadn't already been delivered, or that it wasn't being delivered quickly enough.
Well, you know, we do need to pick up the pace, but there are now plans in place. There's a target of 2025 full fibre broadband rollout delivery. Those are moving ahead. The real challenge, the huge challenge on this, is the 10% of rural regions that are really, really expensive to extend broadband to, and that is where we really need to focus the attention. But you know, honestly, this should be done by the private sector in partnership with government. The idea that it would be nationalised, slow things down, and frankly, yes, you know, send shockwaves through businesses in other sectors as well, does not feel like the right way to be going ahead.